can bang might decide the fight. Tony Tucker has already entered the ring. He's a guy who really has been known as the invisible contender. At least that's his own choice of words, because he really hasn't drawn much attention. One of the reasons he hasn't drawn much attention is that he really hasn't beaten anybody. He did beat James Broad, and that kind of catapulted him into this title shot against Buster Douglas. He is a boxer, as you saw his record, 33 up and none down. But again, the biggest question, of course, who has he fought?
Fought much of anyone, and one of the reasons is that he has a father who is the equivalent of a stage mother in boxing. A stage father, Bob Tucker, himself once an amateur fighter, and his manager, and everyone who's around fighting knows that he has kept him from fighting quality opponents. That may lead to a championship fight, but it doesn't lead to a championship where the real money is.
Well, he said some interesting things. He says he doesn't want to leave this one to the judges, and yet he's a guy who really has not been known particularly as a knockout guy. As you look at his father looking on at his son. Here's the other side of this fight. Buster Douglas, 23 wins, 3 losses, and 1 draw. Most of the losses were in the early part of his career. He lost to David Bay in David Bay's first professional fight, but he also lost to a guy by the name of Mike White, and in fact was knocked out by Mike White, who was a former winner of the National Tough Man competition. So he's a guy who's been up and down, but he has beaten Greg Page, and that's the one that catapulted him into this.
And here's his father, Bill Douglas, another stage father in boxing, who's no longer his manager. He's been sort of shoved aside for that. But Billy Douglas was a spirited, tough middleweight and light heavyweight in the 50s and 60s, and his son is going to have to do exactly what he used to do and just out-hustle his opponent to win tonight.
Lots of sartorial splendor in this one as well. As you look at the shoes, actually of Tony Tucker, those are not the shoes of Buster Douglas. Buster Douglas had told us that he was going to come in here wearing scarlet and gray shoes, and the reason he was going to do that was because of Ohio State. He's from Columbus, Ohio, and his manager, John Johnson, was a football coach under Woody Hayes at Columbus, Ohio, at Ohio State, and he was going to wear the scarlet and gray shoes, but he hasn't done that for some reason. It really has nothing whatsoever, frankly, to do with the outcome of this boxing match. So it's Buster Douglas against Tony Tucker, this for the heavyweight championship amongst the IBF. Little to choose really amongst the numbers, as you could see here. The weight difference of 5 pounds in favor of Douglas, but Douglas, interestingly enough, was once as little as 208 and as much as 261, so he has had that much of a variance. 227 today, and he said really that he feels the best at about 240, so we'll see what this weight does for him.
And here's our computer toy punch stat, which gives you a statistical profile of the fighters. Here you can see what Tucker and Douglas have done against some recent opponents. They throw about the same number of punches. Tucker has landed more. Tucker is the sharper and more athletic fighter. Oddly enough, Douglas throws more jabs than Tucker does, but he is going to have to out-hustle Tucker, wear him down in 15 rounds to win this fight.
Let's take a look at the rules in this one. And of course, the most important rule, which is not here, which Larry just mentioned, 15 rounds. We're going a long way in this one. 10-point must system. 3 judges will score the fight. The referee does not score. There will not be a standing 8 count. Fighter can be saved with the bell only in the final round, and the 3 knockdown rule has been waived. Now let's get to the action. We'll go to the center of the ring. The ring announcer here in Las Vegas, Chuck Hull, and we'll meet the fighters. Chuck?
Ladies and gentlemen, representing the International Boxing Federation at ringside this evening is that body's president, Mr. Bobby Lee of New Jersey, and supervising for that body is Mr. Al Goodman from the state of Florida. The officials assigned by the Nevada State Athletic Commission for the next event of the night. The judges are Chuck Giampa of Las Vegas, Nevada, Ed Levine of Miami, Florida, and Glenn Hamada of Seattle, Washington. The timekeeper is Jane Broadfoot. Counting at the knockdowns, Mike Lachella, and your referee is Mills Lane. This is the semi-main event of the evening. 15 rounds of boxing for the IBF Heavyweight Championship of the World. Introducing, in the blue corner, fighting out of Columbus, Ohio, weighing in at 227 1/4 pounds, with a professional record of 23 wins, 3 defeats, 1 draw, 1 no decision, with 15 KOs. He's ranked number 2 in the world by the IBF. Ladies and gentlemen, here is James Buster Douglas. And in the red corner, from Houston, Texas, weighing 222 and 1/4 pounds. His professional record consists of 33 wins, no defeats, 1 no decision with 28 KOs. He is rated #1 by the IBF. Here is heavyweight Tony Tucker.
Okay. Back him up, please. Wait till I get there. All right, here we go. Now, we've been through the instructions in the dressing room already. Any questions for Mr. Douglas or his chief second? Any question, Mr. Tucker or his chief second? Let's get it going.
Ray, according to Douglas, these two fellows have sparred perhaps 100 rounds over the years. You think that will have any effect on this fight?
I doubt very seriously, Larry, because I think now it's a different story. I think both guys have developed, and this first round should indicate that.
Buster Douglas said first round was very important to him because it would indicate whether or not he has to chase Tony Tucker. He doesn't want to have to chase him if he could help it. Right now, Tucker's right there for him.
Come on, Tony.
I can tell by the way that Buster Douglas is just sticking out his left jab. A lot of snap, a lot of power. There's a big difference because with Tony Tucker is more so the mover, more so the boxer. He's more apt to stay on his toes a little bit, although now he's flat-footed. And his punch is not as devastating as Buster Douglas.
So many times the one win can really turn a fighter's career. And in Buster Douglas's case, he really was, I think it's fair to call him a mediocre fighter up until the time he beat Greg Page. Now, maybe it was a descending Greg Page, but nevertheless, it had to give him a lot of confidence. And that wasn't a bad right hand. Another confidence builder.
Double it up there. There you go, Jam. Put it together now. So, step and so. There you go.
Yesterday, I speak with both guys, they both were debating who had the quicker hands of the two. And I think it's both guys have the same amount of speed behind their punch.
Tucker is going to have to at least get Douglas's attention, or Douglas will know that he can basically walk right through Tucker.
Well, also with Douglas' style, he's more of a plotter. He walks in and tends to wear his man down. I think here against Tony Tucker, he has to be a little more aggressive and just cut the ring off. The problem a lot of guys have made, even Marvin Hagler made the same mistake of following me. You have to cut the ring off. And cutting the ring off, I'm not meaning just actually following the guy around the ring. You step to the right, you step to the left. Just shorten the ring up.
Really good combination there by Douglas. Came with the right hand behind the jab. It's been extremely warm here in Las Vegas today, and we have a thermometer with us at ringside, and it is 90 degrees even though the sun is starting to set. It was up about 104 just about a half hour ago. First round, we're going 15 here.
What I see in Douglas is the fact he drops that left hand. It's a bad habit. What Tucker should do, should throw a jab to the body and then counter with the right hand.
Tucker got a quick left hand in at the bell.
I thought that Douglas was a much more positive force in that round. Much more determined to take the fight.
Because you hit me with your jab, but you got to keep on jabbing. You understand? And don't try to stop Seed. Then he threw a 1-2 there. Give me a little ring trigger.
You want to leave the mouthpiece in?
Yeah, leave the mouthpiece in. It's all right. It's all right. Now you just let him spit. What spit bucket at? Get us a spit.
Bucket right there. Double the jab, change your pace.
You'd been there. You understand? Because you turn it over, but you didn't put a whip with it.
There
Okay?
you see
Good.
Douglas's father,
Get a
Billy
little bit
Douglas,
more movement.
giving him
And,
instructions.
Yeah, okay. Get a little bit up more movement and do it. Okay?
And there is Tony Tucker's father, an onlooker. This is Michigan and Ohio State, Barry. Tony Tucker from Detroit. Buster Douglas from Columbus, Ohio.
And oddly enough, it's Tony Tucker who's wearing the Ohio State colors. He's wearing the scarlet and gray, and that's what what Douglas was going to wear.
Good stinging jab by Buster Douglas. And also the reason he gets that snap is he steps in with his punches. A lot of guys, especially in the heavyweight division, as they jab and they back away because they don't want to get hit. Douglas is a different story. He's stepping in with the punch. Makes a major difference in the power.
Again, I feel that Tucker is going to have to at least get Douglas's attention, or Douglas is really going to start to take control of this fight.
I thought the left hook by Tony Tucker pretty much got a little respect just before the bell sounded. Good shot to the body. But see what you have to do, what Tucker should be doing rather, is put his punches together instead of just throwing one particular shot. You need to throw punches in bunches.
Those are both on the arms.
More consistent jab by Douglas. In fact, it is surprising that Douglas is jabbing the boxer in Tucker.
Douglas is snapping that jab pretty well, too. It's not a lazy jab at all.
Well, what he's doing, Barry, he's going up and down. He's going downstairs. He's bringing it back upstairs. And now, again, surprisingly, he's starting to outbox Tony Tucker. I expected to see more left jabs by Tucker. Tucker had a very impressive career as an amateur.
He has a style that really befits an amateur fighter, a good amateur fighter. There was a left hook by Tucker, and it wasn't a bad one, and that definitely did get Douglas's attention.
I see Tucker's a little bit too straight up for me. I think he should bend a little bit more at the knees. He won't be as susceptible to punches. You notice how he stands straight up. All you have to do is throw a straight jab and it's going to land as he runs into you. There's a jab again.
Now, we talked about what a good amateur Tucker is, and Tucker slips down. Now, this is a man that has hurt his knee in a fight and was down for 15 months as a result of that.
Yes, and though he's officially unbeaten, Barry, the hand of his opponent was raised after that fight, but through some successful politicking later on, the decision was thrown out.
Wait a minute. He slowed down.
Let's take a look and see how that happened. He was backpedaling from a right hand, and as you saw, his leg slipped back onto the press table here.
It was back in 1982, in August of '82, that he dislocated his knee in the third round of a fight with Danny Sutton. The fight was ruled no contest, and he didn't fight for 15 months after that.
I do get the feeling, Ray, that they know each other very well, and there's still a bit of a feeling out process, trying to see which one can assert dominance, and neither one willing to throw caution away yet.
I said earlier that you know, the guys had sparred some few years ago and they pretty much know each other, but yet they've changed. But I doubt very seriously. I think the way they're approaching this fight here, that either fight has changed at all.
That was a right-hand lead by Douglas that started that little flurry.
We see now a more aggressive Douglas, and this is the type of fight that's going to win for him. He's going to need to back up Tucker and work the body. I'd like to see more body shots thrown by Buster Douglas. He seemed to be the big of the two and the strong of the two. The mistake a lot of fighters make, Barry, they don't get that instant respect. And the only way you can make a fighter respect you is to hop right on at times, or sting with a good punch.
Douglas right now is fighting like a guy who's been here before, and he hasn't. He hasn't been in any situation that even resembles this. Countering right hand by Tucker that time.
Well, Douglas still plotting in, but what's happening as he gets in with his right hand, whether it lands or not, he spreads his stance a little too wide. That's why he can't come back with the left hook. And you'll notice that from time to time he throws a punch, and then all of a sudden he appears to be off balance. Good body shot by Tucker. Now the hands of Douglas are starting to drop. Again, Barry, you notice Douglas' hands are to his side now, at his waist.
Tucker's starting to find the head of Douglas.
Again, you notice that Douglas was off balance, and again, that's because of his stance. He throws the right hand, and he brings that right foot up to left foot. Douglas is indeed inviting a right hand. A counter right hand would land. Good double hook.
Tucker. One fell a little bit short. That right hand of Douglas is a little bit short also.
Tucker looks a little bit tense and stiff to me, Ray. I don't know to your trained eye whether that's true or not.
Well, he seems like he's waiting too long to get his punches off.
And coming up, the big one for the WBA and WBC titles, champion Mike Tyson, challenger Pinklin Thomas. The once champion, will he be a future champion? And there in his locker room is Mr. Tyson. Gold shining from his mouth, and from his fists, iron.
No free one. Don't get no free one. If you do anything, you shake one out. Don't give him nothing free because you stand there boxing him. You just go on and make the shuffle over here, wait till you get him the punch, and then catch him in the angle. Okay? Peace.
Get him out of here in this corner. Come on.
So we start the fourth round. Tucker in the red, Douglas in the white. This for the IBF championship.
That 1 minute rest gave Douglas a breath of fresh air. You notice his hands are back up there. It's important in the corner to know how to revive a fighter.
Oh, Tuck, get him up. Come on, get him up.
And Mills Lane warns Tucker of low blows.
Tucker should be throwing more jabs instead of trying to be so defensive. And that's the reason Douglas is coming in.
You know, we've talked about the heavyweight division ad nauseum, but earlier we saw a fight between James Broad and Greg Page. It was truly one of the great dogs I've ever seen. And here's a couple of young fighters. So far, both doing a pretty good job. Both showing a pretty good jab.
Well, we see some fresh faces here. And also, these guys quite naturally had the potential to become better once they sharpen their tools up.
Incidentally, Greg Page won a decision over James Broad, one that was debated by just about this entire audience of some 12,000 people. Horrible decision, if you'll pardon one man's opinion.
With Tucker, the mistake Tucker's making, and the reason he's not landing consistently is because he's throwing one punch. There he attempted to throw a left hook to the body. He needs to throw both hands. Because if one doesn't land, the other will. Again, Barry knows the right hand landed, but he didn't come back with the left hook.
Now, it looks to me, Ray, like Tucker might have stepped in about a step here. He looks to me as though he's starting just a little bit closer to Douglas.
He's picked the pace up quite naturally. And I noticed that Douglas is moving away, starting to back away.
See, right here, he's just about, I'd say, 2-3 feet away from Douglas, where earlier he was probably 4 or 5 feet away from him.
And talking, he seemed like a bitter man who's never been given just due. I mean, this is a big opportunity, and maybe his last opportunity, so I think he'd better take advantage of it.
Yeah, that's what he said. He feels this is his only shot. He feels if he loses this time, he's not going to get a second try at it. He said, they're going to have to carry me out of here.
How you feel, son?
My muscle, I feel tight.
Which one?
Left arm.
You're too damn tight. You gotta loosen yourself up. Loosen yourself up, son.
Harold Letterman, our unofficial, official. How do you score the fight so far?
Larry, I've got a 3-1 for Tony Tucker. I think he grabbed the last 3 rounds by scoring the harder jabs, and if anybody's throwing combinations, I think Tony Tucker's doing it. Buster's only throwing one at a time.
Well, you and I disagree for one of the few times, Harold. I have it exactly the opposite. Douglas ahead 3 rounds to 1.
Hang on, face this thing. Just don't stand up and box with him. You gotta break him out. Okay?
Do you think you can pull out on when he jab? Move in sometime, Move back.
I think you probably heard in Tucker's corner. Tucker himself said, my muscles feel tight. I can't get myself loose.
Well, that's the reason. I figured there was something wrong because Tucker has a better jab than he's displaying here. Good right hand by Douglas, and he's not using it that much. A lot of guys make the mistake of not really loosening up in the dressing room. And that's a horrible mistake because once you come out here, it's time to go to work.
Now, see, we've always talked about the officiating here in Las Vegas. Now, you're saying that Tucker's not using his jab, and yet when we talk to Harold Letterman between rounds, he says he is using his jab, and that's why he has him ahead. That's what makes boxing, I guess.
Well, no, what I mean, Barry, is the fact he's not using it enough. He's using it quite naturally, but I've seen more consistent left jabs from Tony Tucker. It appears that Tucker wants to throw double jabs. He's starting to just feint with the jabs, pity pat. He needs to put a little snap behind it.
Douglas seems to be the stronger puncher of the two at this juncture of the fight.
Well, Douglas is taking the leverage off his punches. I mean, he's just using brute strength now. Because again, he puts both feet together, which takes away the power of his punches. What Tucker should do, as he come in, throw an uppercut. Catch him coming in, catch him leaning in.
Douglas trying an uppercut, came with the left hand behind it.
Barry, that was a good example there of catching Douglas on the way in. That's what he needs to do, catch him on the way in. There, again, a good shot of him putting both feet together. This is when you can create a knockdown because you're off balance.
There's a quick right hand by Tucker.
But he needs to throw more than one there.
And there was a good
He's
combination with a left hand rock Tucker.
He's hurt there.
And now Douglas presses him. Is he pressing him enough? 20 seconds remaining in this round. Can Tucker get through it? Still seems to be hurt.
He was definitely rocked by that punch.
Obviously, Douglas didn't think he was hurt that much. He didn't really go after him.
Douglas went to college briefly, at junior college, as a power forward, and he showed some of the power right there. I thought he stopped Tucker right in his tracks, but he didn't follow up. And let's take a look at it right here. The right followed by a left high hand, and there you see Tucker's legs buckling. I'd have to say the rebound went to Douglas. And another view of the same thing. A right hand. He's been much more liberal with his right hands. He's taking more chances, Ray. And I think in the end that can influence the judges. Tucker has been just too controlled almost.
A lot of times fighters don't know how to steal rounds.
Sometimes go forward. Relax. Okay.
Here we go.
Well, you saw those punch stat numbers that not only is Tucker not sticking the jab out very much, but when he is sticking it out, he's not scoring with it. He only scored with 2 out of 14.
Well, you know, I stated it's stealing around. In fact, the way that Douglas can steal around is by hurting Tony Tucker, and he did that. Good right hand.
And left behind him.
Douglas now is putting his punches together. He's not just throwing one punch, he's coming back with something.
There was another left hand that caught Tucker backing up.
One step back, please. One step back.
Now you notice Douglas is not showing any type of respect for Tony Tucker, so Tucker has to initiate some respect
Step
now.
back clean. Come on, here we go.
He has to stand his ground and nail Douglas coming in.
When you say nail him coming in, Tucker doesn't really seem to step in too much. There was a right hand by Tucker. A counter behind the jab, you mean?
Well, as Douglas is rushing in, because again, going back to what I stated earlier, being off balance, you can catch a man with any particular shot, more so the inside punching. A right hand would be a good punch to throw on Douglas, because that left hand of his is dropping.
There was a big left hand by Douglas. That was a great shot.
Douglas is beating Tucker on brute strength, just outpowering. You see what I mean by this all strength?
Mills Lane warning Douglas about a butt.
I like when Douglas comes back with this. He finishes up his combinations with the left hook. He has a tendency to do it on occasions, but he doesn't do it often enough.
Sharp jab by Douglas. Good round for Douglas.
Again, the left hook, he follows up with the left hook. I think that's going to be his bread and butter.
But again, coming back to the word that you used earlier, respect, and Tony Tucker is just not showing Douglas that he can hurt him.
Buster Douglas is a 3-1 underdog, fighting, in my judgment, like a 3-1 favorite.
Good round, good round, good round. Good round, good round. Good round, good round, good round. You're starting to feel, you ain't got a second wheel yet, Kev. You still this, still a go. Good, that's good. Take a look at this right there.
There you see 2 punches thrown and missed. Douglas follows up with a left hand right there. One more time. Same result.
Taking a little faked on him, taking away.
Turn your head this way so I can get the sound.
Pop it good, right hand, left hook, break right back at it again with it.
Step behind it. Step into the guy.
There you go. And step with the jab.
Little anxiety in Tucker's corner, I would think.
Telling him to step in, which he hasn't done, as we mentioned in the previous round.
We will have a heavyweight champion in this fight, but we'll have an inexperienced heavyweight champion. So after this fight, they must really handpick their fighters.
Unfortunately, the most likely to be picked is a fellow named Tyson. And that would not be the one that you would hand pick.
That's an unfortunate situation there. Douglas should rip some of those jabs to the body, to the midsection, or to the chest area. Let us slow down Tony Tucker just a little bit more so that left hook of his can land.
There was a right hand by Douglas, and again. And right behind it with another. And Tucker in trouble bouncing off the ropes.
Douglas should stay there. Now, he needs to stay close to Tucker. Because if anything, he's starting to wear his man down.
Well, again, it's just obvious that Buster Douglas just has no respect whatsoever for Tony Tucker. He just doesn't think he could be hurt by Tucker's punches. Tucker hasn't shown him that he can.
Well, I expect a little bit more from Tony Tucker, and I don't see that much from him. With Douglas, Douglas is initiating the control of the fight. He's putting power behind his punches.
Okay, one step back, clean. Step back. Here we go. Get him up. Come on, Chuck.
There was a right hand by Tucker, and that might have gotten Douglas's attention. But again, it was a good punch, clean punch, caught him flush, and didn't hurt him.
This guy's a puncher with arm. Good shot. Now you see what happens, Barry, when you throw a combination or throw a series of punches. One or two punches are going to land. Douglas is starting to breathe through his mouth a little bit here, and that's something that you've always said was a danger sign. Also, the hands start to drop to the side.
Tucker got into it a little bit more right there, but I don't know if it was enough to salvage the round.
Good round. Huh? Yeah, it's for the championship, son. We're right at the door now. You can't let him leave. You got to take over. You understand? He can't keep the pace with you. You're too fast, but you can't wait and let him get off. You got to get off first.
Okay.
Come on, baby, please. Get off first. There ain't no sweat.
And there's Pinklin Thomas trying to get off first in his dressing room and work up a sweat. Coming up, a real heavyweight championship fight.
Get him out, Inspector, right.
Should point out here that Douglas is under contract, if he wins this fight, to meet Tyson next. Tucker is not under contract yet.
And in Tucker's corner, they're just telling him what appears to be pretty basic. You got to get off first, but it's easy in the corner. It's not so easy once you get out there.
Well, for Douglas, that hand pick is going down the drain now. if he should win. These guys here trying to take a breather. Not too many punches being thrown. And in fact, with Douglas is really, he seems the one that's trying to take a breather. And now he's giving Tony Tucker a chance to come on strong.
This is the 8th round, scheduled for 15. Buster Douglas has never gone over 10 rounds, incidentally. Tucker has only once.
You know what I'm fascinated with, Barry? In fact, these guys don't realize you can win the round in the last 30 seconds or a minute. You throw more punches.
I think you made that point abundantly clear a few weeks ago.
I always try to make that point clear to steal the round.
But everybody's not Sugar Ray Leonard. I would think it's tougher for a guy like Buster Douglas or Tony Tucker to steal a round than it is for you.
Well, that is true, but then again, I mean, the caliber of fighters that both guys, or the stage of fighters that these both guys are, they can still do it, man. They may not throw as many punches, but again, they can pour it on. I see now Tucker now is starting to come back to life just a little bit, but he fights more so in spurts.
Douglas definitely taking a bit of a blow here in this round. I'm not real sure Tucker's taking advantage of it. Remember, they were telling him you got to get off first. So far, nobody's punching.
Well, that round won't go into the time capsule.
Where's my eye off? Got some shit in my eye. Close your left one. No, I think it was the Vaseline or something.
Okay. Oh, you put the Vaseline on the eye?
Yeah.
Put it on the bottom.
Yeah, but
It was on my eye last time.
From his eye.
Ice. Both hands. You gotta work both hands now, because the guy, you understand, he never been hurt and things like that too. Now all these fights, now he's gonna be hurt.
Harold, how do you have the fight now?
Larry, I got it 4-4. I think in the 5th round, Buster Douglas picked up the action and grabbed the next 3 rounds, but Tony Tucker came on to capture the 8th and even it up.
Okay, I gave Tony Tucker the 8th round as well, but I had only given him 1 round before and scored 1 round even. So on my card, it's 5-2 and 1. Douglas.
And we start the 9th round. Getting to that part of the fight where neither man has been before, post 10. Tucker has been there once, Douglas has not been there at all. And the temperature here has dropped perceptibly also. 74 degrees on a thermometer that is just a few hundred yards from here. And a little bit of a breeze that's cooling things down.
You can tell the caliber of fighters these guys have been up against by the way they're fighting and the experience that they're displaying. They're young, and once again, they're young and they can learn more as they get more fights under their belt. But at this point here, it's just 2 fighters, 2 ordinary fighters.
Well, the fight is going to be won or lost over the course of the next 6 rounds. And if our 2 judges, Larry Merchant and Harold Letterman, don't agree, you have an idea that the judges who are watching this for real might not agree either.
I think the good news, in fact, these two guys are fighting for the titles, the fact that they are in better shape than a lot of the other heavyweights in the division.
Now, we saw a couple of whales in there earlier. Greg Page and James Broad, as you mentioned. There's a right hand.
The right hand. Now, this is what I've never understood. When guys get a guy going, they let up. And with Tucker, he landed a good right hand, and now he's letting up.
Now, Tucker looks to me to be a little bit tired. He doesn't quite have the snap he did. He's breathing through his mouth, sort of gasping a little bit.
The same kind of body shots, right hand to the body that Tucker's throwing, he's throwing a couple of those to the head. Because of the left turn southpaw just then, Douglas turned southpaw and scored.
All right, step clean back. One step back. Here we go. Okay, you can fight out if you want.
Tempo of the fight has slowed down a great deal here as we wind down toward the end of round 9, coming down toward 10 seconds remaining.
Time. Now, if you go down there one more time, it's going to cost you a point. One more time, okay? Come on.
I think you heard that at the bell.
One more time.
Well, we want to remind you of some other interesting programming coming your way here on HBO. For the umpteenth year in a row, is it 11, I believe, we'll be at Wimbledon at the All England Courts. That starts June 22nd. We'll have daily coverage. Larry Merchant and I will be there. As a matter of fact, Sugar Ray Leonard, you're going to make a guest appearance there.
Yes, sir.
Barry McKay, Arthur Ashe, Billie Jean King. A lot of fun, a lot of work, and a great event.
Keep backing up. Keep backing up. You can get when he hit me. You go forward and start punching. He cannot defense against 3, 4, 5, 6 punches. Off the chair. He punch you, punch right back.
Exactly like they say, push him back with 3 or 4 punches.
That's Tony Tucker's father's voice you hear. He's been sort of watching
what you want to do, Tony,
this
is take
unfold and
push him back
can't
and
hardly
break it in.
stand it because a lot of money is slipping through their hands. Whichever fighter that does fight Tyson will make $1 million.
We start the 10th round. Pace is slowed. Snapping the punch is not quite what it was for either man. The word epic does not come to mind.
Well, these guys have not spent that much energy, although Buster Douglas have put a little bit more into the fight than Tony Tucker. And a thought that crosses guys' minds, especially ones that never been past 10 or 12, you think about the 15-round limit. I know when I fought Benitez, I thought about 15 rounds, whether or not I should save some for the later rounds. But these guys have not burnt that much energy.
Mike Tyson said the same thing the first time he went 10 against Quick Tillis.
You think about it, Barry. I mean, it's on your mind. You say, well, I want to save a little bit for the last 2 or 3 rounds.
Well, it's the unknown. You haven't been there before. It's another 15 minutes.
But it's no difference, I think.
That was a right hand by Tucker. Not a bad shot. And Douglas appears to be hurt.
He's really hurt. The right hand is doing it. Now, if he let his man off.
Douglas looks tired in addition to being hurt. Right hand again by Tucker. Douglas on wobbly legs, about to go. Tucker presses him. Looks like he's a punch away.
You need more than one punch, Barry. He's come back with the left hook. There was the left hook there.
And a right behind it and another right. Douglas is in deep trouble on the ropes. Almost halfway through the round.
They stopped the fight.
And Mills Lane, I believe, has stopped this one. He has. It's over. Mills Lane saying that Douglas unable to defend himself. And Tony Tucker, with a huge 10th round, has come on to win it after a slow start.
I'm a little stunned. I thought the fight was ended a bit prematurely, but I can't fault Mills Lane. And that one came out of nowhere. We saw Douglas seeming to get a little tired in the last few rounds, but we didn't know how tired he was until he got hit with a punch in that round. And just everything just seemed to fly apart at that point.
Well, a big surprise in how quickly it ended, but Tony Tucker, who was clearly the stronger fighter over the last couple of rounds. Let's look again. There was the right hand, Ray.
Well, I thought the fight was justifiably stopped because you notice here that Douglas is not throwing any punch. He's not retaliating at all. Tony Tucker hurt with a good uppercut and followed with a good right hand. There was a right hand that started things off. And at this point here, Douglas appeared to be defenseless. He's not doing anything. The uppercut by Tony Tucker, throwing more punches than he threw in the earlier rounds.
Then he turned him around and he got him on the ropes, and it looked for a moment as though Douglas might be able to weather things. But then a combination again by Tucker. That was the end. Douglas was on the ropes defenseless, and Mills Lane stepped in and stopped the fight. And you're looking at the new IBF champion, Tony Tucker, undefeated now in 34 fights. He was a great amateur. I think you could see by his style why and how he was a good amateur. He won 115 amateur fights. But he just hadn't beaten anybody before tonight. And I suppose there are those who could question whether or not he beat anybody tonight either.
Well, that's besides the point, I feel, because he won the title. I think getting the right guys, he can gain the experience, the necessary experience.
Let's get the official decision now from the ring announcer, Chuck Hull. Chuck?
Ladies and gentlemen, the time, 1 minute, 36 seconds of the 10th round. Referee Mills Lane stops the bout. The winner by a TKO and new IBF heavyweight champion of the world, Tony Tucker.
Well, a moment in the sun for Tony Tucker, the new IBF heavyweight champion. And he will try to make his way over to Larry Merchant, who right now is with Tony Tucker. And as soon as we get our cameras set up there, we will go up to Larry Merchant with the winner and new champion. Let's go right now. Larry, you got it.
All right, Tony Tucker, the new IBF champion. Tony, it looked like a long night for you in the first 7 or 8 rounds. You looked stiff and a little anxious. How were you feeling up until the end?
Well, Larry, I had a lot of pressure on me. It took me 7 years and 34 fights to get here. The pressure was just a little too much. I was tight in there in this fight because I was so anxious. But first, I want to give all thanks to the Almighty God. I'm a God-fearing man, because without him, I wouldn't have won this fight. It was him that initiated me to win this fight. IBF. The IBF.
Tony, are you going to fight Mike Tyson next?
Yeah, I'm a fight. I mean, if that's what's next, I want to unify the title. It was tough. I learned a lot in this fight, but I had pressure and perseverance. It took me 7 years to get here, Larry. I had a lot of pressure on me, but I thank God I won it. I'd like to thank this man here, these two men right here, Donald Foster and Luther Burgess, because this is the man here that got me in contention.
Tony, you're understandably elated, but we've got another fight coming up. Congratulations, and back to Barry and Ray at ringside.
All right, thanks very much, Ray.